Luxury, a term, a word that evokes a very, very good feeling from within of richness and the absolute top crust. You hear the term luxury all the time, but do you really understand it? Very few people do. Luxury is not about a high price tag. Luxury is not about a product, at least not the product's functionality and purpose. Luxury is about the association, the status, the legacy, the aura around a brand, the kind of aura that makes you very loyal to a brand. But today, this is what we are going to do. We're going to do something dramatically different. We're here at the Luxury Symposium 2017, and we have a fantastic panel of people that will take us through educating us what is true luxury. Luxury from now into the future.
The Luxury Symposium 2017, a conference with some of the biggest influencers and names in Indian business and luxury. The forum gathered together celebrated panelists to throw light on India's incredible legacy of history, tradition and craftsmanship, which can be reimagined to brand the country as a global producer of luxury products and services. The question on everyone's minds was, can India ever be the luxury capital of the world?
6% of all the global billionaires are going to be in India in the next 5 years. And therefore, a segment which feeds into and also sustains the luxury industry is on a very clear growth path, and you're only talking of numbers growing rather than, stabilizing or plateauing. So this is an industry which essentially depends on a certain aspirational class, which today has that kind of a purchasing power, which has got a lot of desire and ambition.
The Luxury League is a project that I pursue because of my faith in India. The foundation believes that the essence of luxury lies in our history, our culture, and our heritage. And there's no better way of appreciating India by celebrating our rich heritage. It is my passion to promote the modern India to the world. I feel that we are a bit apologetic and we undersell ourselves, which is not necessary. I think we are empowered today to project to the world an India they don't know, an India they've never seen, an India that each one of us here is superbly proud of.
And of course, the question remained, can the growing Indian middle class drive demand for luxury across the world?
They are demanding. They want luxury, and they want things to be customized for them. This is excellent because it means that standards have to rise to meet their demands.
In India today, we aspire to become the luxury capital of the world. But before we do that, we must make sure we have richness in another area. Richness in the prosperity of our people. And the first thing we need to do in order to do that is to stop waiting for the government to do it. Stop criticizing the government for what they have done or not done. Let's ask ourselves, what have we done?
It's right times, right people, and the right move as well from the government.
The panels also included decision makers and innovators such as the CEO of Niti Aayog, Amitabh Kant, Minister for Commerce and Industry, Nirmala Sitharaman, His Highness Maharaja Gaj Singh of Jodhpur, James Kola, the Editor-in-Chief of Rob Report UK, and Facebook's country head Umang Bedi. The conference took place at the Taj Palace in New Delhi, and the panelists had plenty of expectations from the event.
So it seems like it's going to be a cracker of an event, and the first panel discussion is about to get started. And this is a very interesting one. It's about technology and luxury, and is technology a disruptor for luxury? Now, technology and luxury should be married to each other, but that's not happened till now. In fact, they are very, very far apart. Can luxury really do something about the new millennials, the kind of things that they expect? Can they use technology in the way they should be? That's the first panel. And the real big thing is that the moderator of this panel is a huge, huge favorite of mine. Let's go and meet him. I started by saying that luxury was in this very luxurious comfort zone till the internet and online space completely disrupted it. Luxury has always been about the experience. You walk into a beautiful, luxurious shop, you sit on this beautiful leather seats, the salesperson is your best friend, everything is so beautiful. And yet, online, you can't replicate that at all. How does the luxury market move from what it has always known to an unknown world where, at the present moment, people aren't rating it too high?
Fine. So that is the question of the 1 million. You're right. The world of luxury is based on three things. A control, absolute control of their intellectual property, an absolute control of distribution, and an absolute control of the creative process. And digital is transparency, pricing that you cannot control, and everybody's creative. So it's like an oxymoron. Has luxury totally embraced digital? No. Can you play both games? Yes.
Amitabh, this one is for you. So, Make in India now has, of course, become the absolute tagline by which almost anything can be done. But has luxury done it? I mean, a lot of people say Make in India could now be turned into a phrase that has one or two more words added to it. Make mobile phones in India, because that's about the only one that really seems to be doing well.
Well, it's not just the mobile. I mean, we've had about 50 plus mobile manufacturers coming into India to manufacture here. But if you look at automobile sector, which is really the ultimate end of luxury, you've seen a vast number of companies coming in and manufacturing in India, but they've done it with compact cars. But you've also had Mercedes and BMW coming in, doing extremely well in India. So the luxury market has also moved up. But I think eventually and finally, the key would be to take India up the value chain in areas where India has a strength, a unique strength in terms of its arts, its crafts, its jewelry, and so on. And to my mind, the digital world is going to make a very significant disruption in that, because that world is all related to experiences.
When luxury brands are on Instagram or on Facebook, with zero entry barriers for non-luxury brands to do the exact same thing, this is not a level playing field anymore for luxury brands. Is this good or bad? And the second part, every luxury brand seems to think having an app, their own app, is the final holy grail of being luxurious. But so can the neighborhood Kirana store now. So how do you define luxury in a world where digital disruption has leveled the playing field?
Disruption is when a player comes in at the low end of the market and slowly creeps his way up, right? And if you think about Airbnb, you can book a villa there today for 15 lakh rupees a night, or a crore a night, or even 1,000 rupees a night, right? A room there. So I think that's what disruption is, and that's what technology has enabled, right? So that's the first part. The second part is specifically to your question, that what does it take in terms of entry barriers? And you're right, the entry barriers have been reduced, right? Because the lowest common denominator today is personalization. Because if you have the ability to provide a personalized, relevant, meaningful experience, which is embedded on creative, can I create the right creative experience to induce or seduce a response from my user, right? Now that again goes down to your understanding of your audience and how can you create that realm in the digital world. And there's some brands, to what Paloma said, who are doing it well or are on that journey, right? The third part is the Holy Grail an app? Yes and no, right? So for instance, you could argue that Amazon India today has brands like Versace and Furla and a whole bunch of merchandise that's out there. And you could argue that they're doing more sales. In fact, Urban Ladder, for instance, is selling more or equitably on Amazon versus their own app, right? So I think the app is more of a brand identity. I don't think luxury brands today have really built a digital commerce strategy yet, right? And I think it's going to take them some time. But to me, it has to be an omni-channel world. You have to find a way to marry the experiences that you can offer in store to provide those exclusive experiences online, right? And that comes down to how well do you know your customer.
the biggest advantage you think India has in the luxury market?
Digital and luxury is so you, as you have the talent in terms of IT, you have the pricing, and you have the willingness of the government to create that gap. So you are, but India, you know what I mean? Not even selling products from other brands here. It's like you should be the digital luxury driver.
You know, it's the sheer strength of your art, your craft, your master craftsmen. I mean, it's simply unique. They just need to be positioned, branded, and put out into the global market. I mean, that's the ultimate luxury form. That doesn't exist in Europe. That doesn't exist in America at all. And that's the strength of India.
One is the demographic dividend and the rising middle class and the rising aspirations and an extremely brand conscious market. It is an extremely, at all levels, right? For me, that's the first thing. The second thing for me is the fact that mobile has actually leapfrogged every other medium, right? So you don't have to create experiences on 10 mediums like the US or Europe. Roti, kapda, makan, and mobile is the single biggest leveling factor. And three is just the reach, just the size of the market. And the rate of growth of 7.6% and beyond for the next 10 years is just going to make this amongst the largest markets in the world.
So that then was a great panel discussion with a great panel and, like I said, a moderator that I really love. But we'll take a break right now. When we come back from the break, we have another very interesting set of panel discussions. The first one is experiential travel and luxury, a different sector, a different thing. What's happened? How has it evolved? And of course, startups and millennials. Can luxury really evoke something new for them? Welcome back. This is the Luxury Symposium 2017 happening in New Delhi. Two more panel discussions and both are really interesting ones. The first is to do with experiential luxury and the second one is to do with startups and the millennials. Luxury isn't about a product. You buy a product, after a little while you might get bored of it. But you go to a place and you get an experience of the absolute top of the line luxury. You may never forget it for the rest of your life. And by the way, the moderator is Veer Sangvi. And he seems to describe luxury with a very different word.
The truth is that in today's world, luxury is essentially a synonym for I mean, luxury is one of the most misused terms you're ever going to come across. It's used when people can't think of an appropriate word. It's virtually meaningless. James, I wanted to ask you, because we know you, of course, because of your writing, but the truth is you've done many other things. You've run companies that deliver experiences to people. What were your learnings during that experience, your experience? What do you find people were looking for, particularly in the luxury market?
I left the London Times, where I was a luxury editor, to set up a company called Brave New World, and our first big project was something called Little Book of Wonders, which was a kind of lifestyle service for top-tier Barclays Wealth clients. So I think we started off with people who had about £1 million kind of in the bank, and we were curating experiences for them. And the model very often was to find a business or an institution that was effectively prospecting for these kind of customers. Mm-hmm. And it was also a neat way of getting around rules in which banks aren't meant to entertain their customers so much. So you would get Gucci to fly people to Florence to visit the Gucci museum there, or to experience a Gucci trunk show, or you would get BAFTA to lay on the kind of treat that they lay on for their patrons, which might be Dame Judi Dench reading Shakespeare's sonnets to a group of 10 or something like that. So we kind of went hell for leather to set this up for launch. And lots of the things that we thought these customers would be thrilled by, they really weren't. Sometimes
give me an example of something you thought they should be thrilled by.
So Boucheron hosting a couple in Paris, putting them up in the Crillon, visiting the workshops, and then having supper with the chairman, which I think, looking back, I think what people thought was, well, that I'm going to go and it's going to be a treat, but they're going to expect me to buy a tiara at the end of it. So no one really wanted to do that. But actually the things that work very well, two things that work very well were either things that people could do as a family. So a mother and daughter sushi making class, we could have filled that 100 times. That worked very well. It was simple and it was low key and it was a kind of a warm way of spending time. And of course the bankers then get to know all the family, which is how all of that works well.
Suman, we're now at when it comes to government promotion of Indian tourism at an all-time high. I mean, I'm not saying this because you're here, but the government's promotion, the tourism ministry, usually has been really awful. But over the last few years, with the Incredible India campaign, you're doing things that make all of us proud. And it strikes me that rather than just say, having a picture of the Taj Mahal and saying, this is a temple in Tanjore or this is a Mughal monument, what you guys are pushing are people, experiences, color, life. Is that a deliberate decision for you?
Yes, in part it is deliberate, but it is also moved by the way the world is changing. Because
Explain
today,
that. Explain that.
Yeah, so today people seek experiences. Because there are some set of people who go every year to Kerala to look at the elephants, you know, because there are these temple elephants which go there. So it's a very niche thing. And what this digital platform has really done is it has opened the doors for us to target people, to bring them to do things that you want to showcase to those guys. So I think in terms of Incredible India, the big push that we have, the big change that we have done is if you're doing a 30-second promo or a print ad, there's only so much message that you can do. But if you actually are able to do it on the digital platform, it allows you to layer up so many layers over and over again. And it allows you to target people specifically and bring them into the country.
What you're suggesting is that with digital media, what you guys have taken is a sort of long tail approach. Instead of just selling the 2-3 things that people used to want to come for, you now have the flexibility and the bandwidth to sell many different things. So that's the big change.
Absolutely.
Yes?
Apart from the grand hotels of India, the iconic hotels, for instance, like the Lake Palace at Udaipur, what I really, really want to praise and say is vital to the experience in India is what has happened in Rajasthan. I mean, I know we're becoming quite Rajasthan-centric, but the smaller properties owned by the young of the family are exceptional, and everyone comes away feeling that they've had an extraordinary experience. There's a wonderful new palace called Devshri, Deogar, built by Shatran and Bhavna Deogar, and that people come away thinking they've had some time in somebody's home.
The online travel agents are actually revolutionizing the market because they've made it so much more approachable. And anything that can be commoditized is getting commoditized. It can be a hotel room, it can be a transportation service, it can be the entire experience.
Luxury in India itself has so many connotations and there are so many contradictions. What can be a glass of cold water in summer can be a luxury for someone in India, and hosting maybe a wedding at the Palace of Versailles can be luxury for someone else. So I'll start with you, Doc. You talked about something that would interest everybody here because India has tried very hard to make that connection and that marriage happen, not very successfully. We started by talking about Ayurveda and moved on to talk about your passion, which is Kaya Kalpa. Do tell us a lot more about what you've done, because it's something absolutely fascinating and not known to a lot of us here.
Now the thing is, in India, we are used to talking about Ayurveda, which has had a great revival. You know, there are clinics in America, there are clinics in Germany, you know. So the way Ayurveda was promoted was that it is an ideal thing for great treatment and a cure-all system. But we forgot about one very important thing. It is not a luxury brand. What really happened here from ancient times was there was a system called Kaya Kalpa, which was an anti-aging program, rejuvenation program. It was limited to the nobles, the kings, and the likes.
I have to ask Samarth, because we were talking about alchemy, perfumes, luxury, Ayurveda, and our roots. And Forest Essentials is certainly a brand that has grown bigger by the year and also acquired a different appeal to the millennials. The millennials are attracted to something that Forest Essentials is promising. What is that something, and how do you address the millennials? And is it the packaging? Is it your advertising? The very sensuous ads? What is it that has changed the brand around so much?
Today, a millennial is very demanding. It's a very tough consumer, very exposed. And understanding what they need, I think, is of prime focus. As a brand, we've evolved over the last 15 years in terms of packaging, in terms of the experience we offer. We talk about luxury being an experience, and everybody knows that now. But understanding going forward, I think what the consumer is looking for is a real story. They want to know how the product is made, where it's made, what it's made from. People are not going with just smells and packaging. They're actually going for a full story. And that's what really makes the brand. It's the philosophy that you have. It's the story behind it.
Thank you so much. Serge, luxury brands today, it's not about a consumer, a market. And you said that a young person in India could be aspiring and wanting exactly the same experience or product as someone in China or in France. So where do you think India can engage itself better to create a brand, like a perfume brand, for example, which originates from India and yet is global?
You have all these tribes with some values that are shared globally, but divided around the world. So I guess that with his cultural heritage, with this craft heritage that exists in India, there is a possibility of promoting these values that are deeply rooted into the Indian culture and to promote it abroad. And for sure, that kind of authenticity of the Indian approach and culture could be really a strength for a brand to go abroad.
Well, that then is it in part one of our show, the Luxury Symposium 2017. But do remember, it's just part one. Part two has a lot more, including can India become the capital of the luxury world? That's happening next week. Don't miss it.